Okay, so I just wanted to point this out to ex-divester. Honestly, if I have some kind of hatred vibes, what do you have? Personally, for me, I've never said anything hateful about black men, specifically black women, specifically. The only things I've ever said about dark skinned black people that was, I guess, to some people upsetting or make them feel like it was hateful, was things implying that I'm not quite comfortable with the skin tones as far as its properties, okay? But I'm not very comfortable with white skin properties either. I don't like freckles, and I really do not like when their skin gets red in the sun. And I do not like how dark skinned women or men have heavy pigmentation in certain areas, like their bottoms, their privates, and their nipples are very black in a scary way. Yes, very scary. Um, that's just my perspective. And I've already proven to you that for me, my skin tone is naturally, my body's skin tone is much lighter than my face. So you guys trying to claim that I bleached actually failed. Um, but, it's just kind of like from my perspective. Like, you guys always have some kind of issue with the fact that I'm not one who is like you, okay? I am not. I am not hateful towards myself like you are. And you clearly hate yourself. Two reasons. One, because you guys automatically get obsessed with my skin tone in a weird way. Like, the topic was not my skin tone, but then, of course, somebody has to bring up my skin tone, and then the rest of you try to claim that you're jealous too of my skin tone. Rightfully so, Geisha Peach. I mean, look at you. I wouldn't want to look like you. From what I've seen, that you have a very interesting phenotype that is unattractive. And that's not on a skin tone level, that's on a facial feature level. You know what I mean? Like, these are the facial features that I specifically said that in black men I would never be interested in. And I don't want my daughters looking like you. And I would not want my sons looking like you for sure. 'Cause, yeah, that would be terrible. Now, the problem is in this situation is this. You will go about saying that you don't like black men and call them the N word and call them apes and call them cicadas or whatever other terms you guys use. I personally am not like that because you're not really answering the question if you're attracted to black men or not. I answer the question on whether I'm attracted to black men or not. I answer in saying I'm not attracted to black men. And then I specify why I'm not attracted to black men. I don't go off on hate rants on black men because what's the point of that? That doesn't answer the question on whether I actually am attracted to black men or not. What answers the question is me explaining why I'm not attracted to black men. So for me, I've said this before, dark-skinned black men look like dark-skinned black women. If I was attracted to dark-skinned black men, I would have to be attracted to dark-skinned black women. I would have to be a bisexual. I'm not a bisexual, therefore I can't be attracted to dark-skinned black men. And so for those reasons, I don't find black men attractive. So that's my whole point in sharing that as a black woman who has a lighter, skin tone. Just had to yawn there. Um, for me personally, I've always preferred features that were just more pointed, more sharp. You know, black men, for me, I've specifically said this, they look feminine. The reasons why they look feminine to me are, I'll explain as far as their features. They have soft, round noses, full lips, high cheekbones, almond shaped eyes that are far apart. They have brow ridges that are soft and round. They have round foreheads, round hairlines, round chin, round jaw. Those reasons they look like effeminate black women. Let's be honest. They look like their mamas, and that doesn't seem attractive to me. This is why a lot of people who are attracted to dark skinned black men will try and masculinize dark skinned black women in their image. I don't personally do this because to me it's just like I don't see it, you know. And people who do that to me have a lesbian quality. Like they're really attracted to dark skinned black women. They just don't want to admit it. But yeah, they're probably attracted to some dark skinned black women because how can they not be? They look exactly the same. With clothing on, what is the difference with a dark skinned black man and a dark skinned black woman? There is no difference. You see the people in Africa, you can't tell who's male and who's female unless they're one of those primitive people that don't wear clothing. But when they like shave their heads, and both genders shave their heads, by the way, sometimes, then they both look the same. You can't tell that's a male, that's a female. No, they're the same. Think of Europe. If you in Sweden, for example, the women shave their heads, we would know the women from the men. We would. Sometimes people are into that feminine female look, but that's because they're attracted to females. But white women look very distinct from white men. They just do. Even when a white woman is trying to be as masculine as she can, she still looks like a white woman. And a white man still looks like a white man. When a white man is very feminine, he could be trying to do a transition. He is still going to look like a man on the masculine structure level. And I'm attracted to masculine structure, and black men don't have masculine structure. So, for those reasons, they aren't an option for me. Just like Asian men are not an option for me. I was just having this conversation with somebody, and they were agreeing with me that, Asian and black men have the same facial structure. The only difference is the eyes, but they're basically the same, racially, um, phenotypically speaking. So that's why I'm not attracted to either people, and then also added to it that the fact that their genitalia is so dark that it reminds me of waste. That's unattractive as well. And reminds me of feces, Of course, I wouldn't want anyone to touch me that looks like that down there. Um, so for those reasons, I will explain, but it's not a situation of actually hate. It's not a situation of hating black men. I don't even hate black men. They're great people sometimes. I mean, like, I wouldn't mind voting for a Republican black man that is actually going to make change happen. If he was going to make change happen as a governor, as president, I wouldn't mind voting for him. So obviously, I don't have an issue with black men. I just personally don't want to have sex with them. That's it. So that's why when you say hate, I think you have the self hate. But you have to understand, and I've talked about this over and over again, that self hate is not going to make you not attracted to black men. You're either attracted to them or you're not. And it's almost like to me, like you haven't actually explained why you're not attracted to black men. You haven't explained that you are unattracted to black men. All you have pointed out that you don't like black men and you think that blackness makes you inferior. Because, let's be honest, between white men and black men, what is the difference with a white man and a black man? I've said this over and over again. The difference is one is white and one is black. It's not that they're men that's the difference, it's that they are one's black and one's white. So if you're saying one man is basically, you know, less than because he's black, that is implying that you think blackness is inferior to whiteness. This is why, to me, it's just like, of course you feel inferior to white men and other races of men when you date out. Because if you think blackness is the inferior situation and component to the equation of black men to white men, then you obviously feel inferior to women of other races in comparison to yourself. So, obviously, you do have self hate towards yourself. Obviously, you think you're an N word. Obviously, you think you're an ape. Obviously, you think you're a cicada because you're literally calling someone those names based off of race. I do not specifically call black men feminine based off of their race. I call them feminine based off of their features. And you can tell this because I specifically call Asian men this as well. So it's not specific to a race, it's specific to features. And they happen to have these features. Therefore, they are feminine. That doesn't mean that they are hated by me. And I do not hate black men. And I do not hate black women. I do understand that there are dark skinned black women like you, and dark skinned black women like Star, and dark skinned black women like the women you're talking to, who will express a lot of colorism and hate against my skin tone, as you guys were here. And I will defend myself. I don't mind defending myself. And I don't mind telling you why I don't appreciate your skin tone more than mine. I can tell you why I like being my skin tone over yours. And the problem here is this: you can't tell me why you'd want to be dark skinned over me, over my skin tone. You can't. You can't explain what's better about dark skin than tan skin. And that's why you're mad. Because if you had mutual feelings towards me on that issue, we wouldn't have a problem. Because you would understand you prefer being dark skin, and I prefer being brown skin, you know? So that's my perspective on that. I specifically always compartmentalize all of you so my feet don't get muddy. And I do it this way even against light skinned people when I need to. Like when I've had beefs with light skinned people, I strategically do the situation where my feet don't get muddy, basically. See, I don't self-deprecate. I won't self-deprecate. I never self-deprecate by attacking a brown-skinned woman or man, because if I did that, it would basically come back at me. So I don't do that. I go after other things. If I have to, I go after the features, which, to me, that's a major reason between you and I. Well, as ex-divester, since you have more Afrocentric features, I've seen your face. Your skin tone is brown, but your features are specifically more Afrocentric than mine. And that's a major reason why I would never want my kids to look like you. And I prefer men of other races, so my kids won't look like women like you know, because, I do favor my phenotype, and I want my kids to look like me. If you had self hatred, you wouldn't want your kids to look like you. And this is the thing, I wanted to do a video on this actually, specifically with lighter skinned people and people, with different phenotypes. We actually benefit from racial mixing because our kids will end up having the same color, basically, as, well, not the same color, but a similar color. Like, think of it. When a light skinned person or a lighter skinned person, lighter brown, I'm saying, is with someone who is white, the kids will come out light skinned. So basically, you retain the whole image of lighter spectrum. To me, I like that because that's closer to my image. If I was a dark skinned person, which would never happen, just the idea of having children female children for that matter, they would not look like me because they would be dark skinned. They'd be very different from me phenotypically. So I wouldn't see myself in my children because they'd be so far from my own phenotype. Light skin is much closer to my phenotype than any dark skin, especially according to the skin tone chart from Chrissy, who specifically thinks it's darker than Kelly Rowland. Kelly Rowland's very deep compared to me, so I mean, yeah, that's a long way for me. Light skin specifically isn't that far, considering, I'm a light brown hue myself. So for me, it's an interesting thing, and I was wanting to talk about this with light skinned men and light brown skinned men as well, on how, they tend to still produce what they are no matter who they're with, besides dark skinned black women, and how I support that. But that's a whole different video, but I wanted to do a video on that. My point is in saying all this is specifically that, you can tell for me, I don't have any self-hatred. If anything, I guess you could say I have some situations where I'm not afraid to tell you how I feel about you when you want to be colorist and negative towards me. I can give it back to you, and it sometimes hurts your feelings because you're like, oh my god, you basically are putting you in your place, basically, you know. Let's just see it as it is. When you're the one calling people the N word, calling people apes, and so forth, you're clearly the one who has self hatred. You're clearly the one who's insane. I mean, do you think that men of other races would look at you and think that that's pretty normal behavior? To be calling people of your own race racial slurs? No, they would say that's abnormal. And I've explained my perspective in my situation as far as a lighter skinned black woman and how I've been treated by black women. People tend to understand that more because they're like, oh, it's an infighting issue between those two complexions, those two phenotypes. Like, if you understand colorism crybabies and how they explain their plight, then they'll understand the other way too. Now, the thing is, with people like you, you're literally out here just calling black people apes for the basis of being black. That's very different than saying somebody has an issue with my phenotype, and I will retort back by saying how I feel about their phenotype. I mean, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So when you are colorist and when you are hateful towards me, you give me actually a reason to actually say the same to dark skinned black women. So you can't really be shocked that I would be open to saying whatever about dark skinned black women, because I mean, like, you deserve it at that point. Now, on the whole basis of hating black people on the basis of blackness, like I said, you're condemning yourself. And I wanted to end off saying that people like, for example, Divested Zealot specifically have said in the past that there are white powdered donuts and there are people who are white who are very dysfunctional. I don't know why you just assumed that over on that side that they are white worshipping. Who the heck is white worshipping? I don't see it happening. I don't. Like, I've seen with Divested Witch that she specifically has said two things. Now, maybe you haven't paid attention. Actually, three things. One thing she said is that she would not go after black men with her own phenotype because she feels that's self deprecating, which is smart. Who the heck does that? That makes sense. My thing is, dark skinned black men don't have my phenotype, so they're fair game for me. But I mean, for her, I understand her perspective. Even though she doesn't tend to have the wider features, she tends to have more the narrow features, but still the same. I understand. They're dark skinned like her, so I understand her perspective. She specifically also says that there are N words, basically, and there are black people. So she makes a distinction in the fact that blackness doesn't condemn a person. You know, she likes her father and her brother. She doesn't have any issues with her male relatives, which lets you know that she doesn't equate blackness as inferiority, which might be why she ended up with a white man, married to a white man, and on equal footing to a white man, because she came into it with a self esteem that she's equal. You, on the other hand, aren't married to a white man because you see yourself as inferior. When you think of people like, for example, who else? Um, a couple other content creators that I watch, they specifically will talk about different experiences they've had with other races. Um, but you'll see a commonality between people like, for example, Coriander, Divested Witch, Divested Zealot, and I'd even say another content creator, but I don't even feel like bringing her up because I don't feel like you bringing her up, so I'm not going to mention her. Um, but you can see a commonality between them is that they're not attracted to black men. Like, they're not physically attracted to them. Um, on a large point, on a large level. Just like I'm not attracted to black men on a large level. And I've said this, that to me, interracial dating is just more like beneficial, honestly, because there's more people that are white and Hispanic than people who are black. So that's basically all I have to say in this video. I kind of feel like you are having a bit of a fit because you feel like you're the one who felt like you were inferior and you couldn't get what you wanted because, well, they put you in your place. And you deserved every bit of that. You deserve to be put in that place. When you give the energy that you're less than, people will treat you like you're less than. And that's why you don't need to be doing that. You should not be literally thinking that black men are inferior, black men are the N word, black men are, apes. When you think that you are an ape, you are an N word. Well, if you're an ape dating a white man, why should the white man choose the ape? I don't understand that. Why would you think a white man would marry an ape? I mean, a self proclaimed ape? Hey, you lose all respect. And you seem like obviously you don't have any confidence in who you are. It is what it is. You can see, like I said, on different divested channels, usually they make a distinction in making sure that people understand that they don't see themselves that way particularly. I make this known for me, personally, you know. So, to me, I just think that honestly, do a little bit better in presentation and representation of yourself so then people can take you a little bit more seriously. Because you're saying like people are white worshiping, but I've only seen you do the white worshiping thing. I haven't specifically seen other content creators with that specific white worshiping concept. I don't see that with Coriander Yander. I don't see that with Divested Witch. I don't see that with even Divested Zealot. I mean, I remember a year ago, I was watching Divested Salad, and she was specifically saying, this was during Christmas of the year before. And she was specifically saying that someone was saying that she was white worshiping, and she was like, "Oh no, there's like, there's basically white men that are really messed up, and not everything is good with white men either. White men aren't perfect either, specifically. So I mean, she didn't have that white worshiping complex really there. There's some content creators who do that, probably, but those aren't the ones. Specifically prefer channels who will talk about powdered donuts from time to time. Let everyone know. Because when people experience the powdered donut, I mean, can we just be understood as, there are such things? So then, like, I don't have to go on Crystal Swirl's channel, for example, and people be like, no, it's gotta be a black man. Like, if I'm specifically talking about a white powdered donut, I want you to be able to know that obviously it's not a black man, but it could be a bad interaction, on a coffee date, or like someone you saw at work, or someone you saw in the neighborhood, or whatever you saw, you know, in your life. But, that would be expected because there are dysfunctional white people, and there are dysfunctional black people, and there are dysfunctional Hispanic people, and there are dysfunctional Asian people, okay? There are dysfunctional people. The basis and the reason for my being attracted to men of other races is specifically because I'm not attracted to black men, and I'm attracted to white men and Hispanic men. That's it. It's a simple reason to this. So that's all I have to say in this video. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe and comment down below. Have a great day. Bye, guys.